Well, my background, I grew up in the Midwest. Um, got out of there as quick as I could. No, actually. Growing up in the Midwest was a great place, but business brought me to the South around '93. I lived in South Florida for about 5 years. And then business again took me here to Dallas, and I've been here ever since. Well, that's a good question. I was working for an equipment distribution company. They sold restaurant equipment to large national, actually multinational chains. And I was responsible for the national account sales for those various restaurant brands. And, it was at that point that I really sensed that God was calling me into the ministry. And I didn't really know what that meant, other than I just knew that there was a calling. And late in 1999, I had what I guess I would describe as an experience, but it was as if God walked in the room. I mean, I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, but it was just a very tangible, real presence that I wasn't alone. And it was an amazing thing, but it was a peaceful thing. And God spoke to me and told me that I was supposed to enter into some type of training. I didn't know where or when or who that was going to be, but just knew that I was being called into the ministry. And at the time, I really didn't even know what that meant. But it gave me a peace. Now, at the same time, it created a lot of questions, because I knew now what I was supposed to do, but I didn't really know how I was going to get there. Interestingly enough, that very next Sunday, and I don't call that an accident, but that very next Sunday, as I was sitting in church, there was an announcement about a minister's training school that was starting up in the Fort Worth area. And I didn't even have to think twice about it. I knew that I was supposed to be a part of that. I actually called that afternoon, on a Sunday afternoon. Now, who's going to answer the phone on a Sunday afternoon? But I called anyway because I wanted to get my name in there. And somebody picked up the phone. And I had an initial conversation with them about the school and how it worked. And as it turns out, it was a program designed for working adults. It was kind of like a minister's, like a seminary on steroids, if you will. It was really set up for people who had full-time jobs. We met once a week on Monday evenings, and then we had an incredible amount of homework. And Monday evenings were really about learning to teach and, in some cases, preach. And it was done under the direction of the teachers, but you also got critiqued by your fellow students. And so it was a safe environment to make mistakes. And so I entered into that school with the intent of finishing at the top of the class, and that was exactly what I did. I finished at the top of the class. And during the course of that year of school, learned a tremendous amount about myself, learned a whole lot more about the Bible and what's in it. And I think perhaps for me the most important thing I walked away from was the fact that it really wasn't about religion. It was really about a relationship. And it was about a relationship with a real person, the person of Jesus Christ. And so all the things that I'd once thought church was, it really changed dramatically for me. And so at that point, wanting to pursue that relationship, I was still on a search, and that search led me to a man who I had known of years before, a man by the name of Dr. John C. Maxwell, who has written, depends if you count the mini books and the full books. Some will say he's written 63 books, and others say he's written 70 books. I honestly don't know which it is, but you know what? 63 or 70, it's a lot of books. He is the number 6 all-time bestseller on Amazon, which is quite an accomplishment. And about a year ago, I heard that I received this email because I was connected to the Maxwell organization through emails and blogs that they would send out, and various types of communications. And they announced that they were starting a new program, which they referred to as a certification program. So I got this notice that John Maxwell was holding an informational call, and being a fan of John's, I absolutely signed up to attend. And John came on this call, and he began to talk about a program that he was starting, a certification program, that where he was going to allow people to come into a program that he was going to train and allow them to go out and carry his name and teach his materials. And being a big fan of John's and being a big fan of leadership in general, that was very exciting to me, and knew right away that that was something that I needed to do. So the John Maxwell Team Program has kind of been that way for me. I hate to confess that I didn't sign up right away. Had the opportunity to be in what he referred to as the Founder's Circle, and I just for timing reasons, it just wasn't fitting into my personal life at the time very well. So I waited a year, and now the timing is perfect. And I've gone through their training program, and I am looking to use the program a little bit differently. Most people in the John Maxwell Team Program are, well, let me back up for a second and just mention this, because I think that this is important. Why is John doing this? And, John doesn't need to start another business. He doesn't need the money. But that was the question that I had to answer, because everybody's got a program and everybody's offering something, and I didn't want to just put money out there, even if it was John Maxwell. And then he said something very profound that really made sense to me, and that was that he's now 66 years old, and he knows that he has a limited number of years left. Maybe it's 20, maybe it's 30, but he knows that that number is now getting smaller than the number he's been in it already. And he wants to leave a legacy. Who's going to carry on his message and his mission? Because we go to certification meetings, what they call live events, and they're 2.5 to 3 day events, and John is there, first one in, last one to leave. This is a man who commands huge dollars to go and speak somewhere for an hour. And yet, here he is spending an entire day giving to an organization that he knows is going to carry on his legacy. And that's a real honor to me to be counted among the certified members of the John Maxwell team, because I know that there's a certain responsibility there, that I'm not just representing Randy Stroman, which has always been important to me to do with integrity as well, but now I'm also representing John Maxwell. And then when I go out and speak, or I go out and coach, or I work with a church or a nonprofit organization to help them find their next level, whatever that might be for them, it's not just me going and doing that, it's John with me. My mission is very simple. I desire to accomplish the Great Commission, to fulfill the Great Commission in our lifetime. Now, when Jesus left his disciples, he gave them a great commission. He said, "Go into all the world and build disciples." And that was a mission that was given to the church. And I look at where we are at on a local basis. I look at where we're at in the church on a national basis. I look at where we're at globally. And in my opinion, and others may disagree with me, but I don't think we're accomplishing that mission. There are more people that don't know of the gospel than do. And that means that there's a lot of work to be done. And so my mission is to accomplish and fulfill the Great Commission in our lifetime. And the way I do that is by helping pastors grow their church. Because the more that pastors can grow their church, the more influence they're going to have, and the more influence they have, the more people they can reach, and the more people they can reach, the greater sense that we're going to be able to accomplish that Great Commission. Well, I think as I look at it, I believe that the issue is a leadership issue. I believe that there is a crisis of leadership, not just within the church, and certainly there are exceptions to that. I mean, there are phenomenal leaders and men and women that have built tremendous organizations that are accomplishing great good. I'm talking about the global church, the corporate church, as some refer to it. And I don't think we're getting it done. I think that we've got some ineffective, maybe some might say outdated techniques. And it's a message that the message is relevant in any society and in any time period of history. But the method of how we go about communicating that message, I think oftentimes is old-fashioned. And we need to bring it into the current age. And I believe that what it's going to take to do that is leadership. And John Maxwell teaches that leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And so by helping pastors to grow the influence of their church, we're going to help the church grow, and we're going to help the church accomplish that Great Commission. Well, John Maxwell has a proven process of using lunch and learns, mastermind groups, and seminars, and that's been used very successfully in a business environment. And business people know John, they know of him, he's written so many books, and so there's an exposure and a credibility there. My passion and vision is to take that program and make that available to the church so that the church, through those programs, can connect with business people in their community, to see pastors rise up and be seen as leaders in the community. Years ago at the turn of the century, and a moment ago, of course, I was just talking about how we need to come into the present, but I think there's an important principle here, is that years ago, the church was the center of the community. It's where everybody gathered for town hall meetings. It is where the schoolhouse was. So the kids would come there for school. The town hall meetings were there. If there was a crisis in the community, that was the gathering place. The church was the center of the community. And we've moved away from that. And I believe that it is a leadership issue. And by training leaders in how to properly influence people and communicating that same message, but in a modern, relevant manner, that we are going to attract the attention of business people. And in so doing, we're going to raise the pastor's status and standing in the community. And once that happens, people are attracted to leaders. And once we can lift that pastor up and promote that pastor in their leadership, not just within their church, but within their whole community, then I believe that we'll see people attracted to that, because leadership is very attractive. Well, Teddy Roosevelt is a hero of mine. There are few people that I call heroes. I think that can be an overused term, but Teddy Roosevelt is definitely one of my heroes. And it's not so much what he did, it was the circumstances in which he did them. And that's an important distinction. And so when I see something from Teddy Roosevelt, I pay attention. And he once said that in any time of great decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do, surprisingly, he said, was the wrong thing. And the worst thing you could do is to do nothing. Well, my advice to pastors would be to plug into this program, to take Teddy Roosevelt's advice. And you know, there are pastors out there that have maybe been successful at recruiting leaders. My challenge to them would be, what are you going to have to do to raise your organization up to the next level of leadership? And then, of course, there are pastors who maybe have had some success or limited success in attracting leaders. And my encouragement to them is, what if you could identify and remove the barriers that have held you back from breakthrough results? That would be a significant thing. I also know that there's a third category of pastors, and those are pastors who have tried numerous times to crack the code of leadership and growth, and have maybe reached the point where they're ready to give up or ready to quit. And my encouragement to them would be to not give up. They don't have to do this alone. They don't have to walk alone through the ups and downs of ministry. Because one thing I know is that God created us for fellowship. And through that fellowship, there is power in teamwork. Extraordinary power in teamwork. And my desire is to be on the team with the pastor, to work alongside them, to help them develop their leadership team, and then use that expanded leadership team to reach into the community to raise up leaders in the community, to once again restore the church to its rightful position, to where it becomes the center of the community, and to do that through leadership. Well, it's just that everything that comes to us in life comes through some type of relationship. And when I work with pastors, first of all, I qualify pastors. I won't work with just anybody. And that's not a statement against them. There are some places where I'm not the right solution. I'm maybe not the person to help them. And so I know where my strengths are, and I know where my capabilities are, and I look for pastors that line up with that capability, so that I know if I enter into a relationship with that pastor, I'm confident that we can bring about the results that they need. Because again, my mission is to accomplish the Great Commission by helping them grow. And so if I'm not in a position to help them, someone else will. But if I can identify them as being a church that wants to increase their influence, that is willing to invest the effort and time into making it work, and is willing to learn, those are very powerful dynamics. And that's an environment where we can accomplish some great things and raise the leadership lid. John Maxwell teaches of the leadership lid, that everything rises and falls with leadership, and that we will never rise above the level of leadership in the organization, because what happens is we keep hitting into that leadership lid. And until you raise the lid, you can't take the organization to a higher level. No matter how hard you try, no matter how many programs you try to roll out or new ideas you might have, until you raise that leadership lid, you're not going anywhere. And so really what my organization does is to help pastors raise the lid of their leadership.